Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Bhagavad Gita Chapter 4. So, after watching playing catch up with the Sanskrit version just to see what the difference are, why is one 14 minutes, the other one 5, there is a lot missing. I mean, some of it I could understand maybe you don't necessarily need, but it adds a lot of context and a lot of information to what's being told. So from now on, we're going with the Sanskrit version, not the English version. But also, Swami Tadatmananda here cuts in between the scenes and explains a little bit of what's going to happen in the next scene. I kind of wish he did that with the English version. That way it adds a lot more context to it. It looks like the English version is just straight up. He kind of summarized, a bit of a summarized version of the Bhagavad Gita itself. Whereas this one, he explains something, and then we go to the scene that he's explaining, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then he explains something, goes to the next scene. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. So this one's going to be 13 minutes long. Really appreciate Swami Tadatmananda doing this. I love everything about it. It works. I just really like it. It fits in so well. Jnana, Karma, Sannyasa Yoga. Sannyasa. I don't know what sannyasa is.
In the fourth chapter, Sri Krishna continues teaching Arjuna about karma yoga, and he introduces a new topic, the profound inner transformation that results from gaining spiritual knowledge, jnana. Sri Krishna begins this chapter by boldly declaring that he himself was the source of that knowledge.
Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanahamavvyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshvakave bravit evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa saevayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam.
Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katame tadvijaniyam vamadau proktavaniti.
Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanamishvaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavam yatma mayaya yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyuttanamadharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham.
That is very true. Even if you take it as a metaphorical meaning, not an actual being. Whenever, sorry, let me rewind that. Whenever righteousness declines and unrighteousness increase, I then create myself. It's kind of something that's been going, I'm sure it's been going on everywhere, but something I noticed in America, where the right or the left increases in power and becomes far right or far left. Then the opposite end would grow in righteousness, I guess you could say, to correct the wrong that is swayed so far one way or the other, to balance itself out again. And then it goes back to the opposite end, where the other one rises to power, corruption, and all that, and the other part now starts increasing again to balance it. I bit my tongue. Balance it out again. That's really weird. But anyways, yeah, that is that's how I took that meaning, and it's very much like that. When I first came to America, I remember the right pushing their stuff in political schools and schools and stuff, which isn't right. You don't push your political views or your religious views in schools, public schools at the very least. because it's supposed to be a very neutral, where they don't teach you one way or another. They teach you the basic science and maths and all of these things, like things that are factual in the world in terms of observable truths. But then, you know, the right was, whenever it first came here, the right was pushing theirs, and all of a sudden it balanced out. And now we're getting the left pushing, and now, kind of, especially in 2020, if you know what's going on, if you kept up with America, the left was really pushing quite hard and became very violent and all of that. I'm not necessarily against protest, but when protest goes to the point of destruction, property damage, and human lives lost, you've gone too far. And most people agree with that. But again, this is the left overshooting, becoming, in a sense, unrighteous, you could say. Now the right's pushing back, and we're kind of, I don't know where we're at right now. I don't know if we're in a balance, because it's like a, what do you call the old clock with the little swing arm, where it goes power, 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 power. There's always a fight between the power, and when it's usually in the middle, it's when it's usually peaceful. And we're kind of somewhere around there. I just don't know where at. And I'm fearful that because right now it was the left. I'm just a bit fearful of what the right's going to do, because the left really, really went far. And I wonder if this pendulum's just swinging harder now. So this is kind of interesting. Whenever he said that, it's very much kind of like, you know, what I see in America. And I'm sure it happens everywhere else, but I'm not there. You know, I don't experience that.
Karmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināṣāya ca duṣkrtāṃ dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge.
Sri Krishna is to be understood not only as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, but as Ishvara, the supreme God of the cosmos. According to Sri Krishna, this understanding can ultimately lead you to transcend the world and reach the realm of pure divinity.
Janma karma ca me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna vitaragabhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha ye yatha mam prapadyante tamstathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushya partha sarvashah kāṅkṣanta karmanām siddhim yajanta iha devatāha kṣipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तारमपि मां विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम् न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते एवं ज्ञात्वा कृतं कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः.
It's very interesting. As I'm following and listening, I'm noticing that action is being said as karma, I believe. I don't know if that's necessarily a direct translation, or just so happens to be the appropriate word for it, I guess, or maybe the appropriate word for what the sentence is trying to say. Knowing this, action is done by the ancient seekers. Knowing this, karma is done by the ancient seekers. I'm just thinking, should karma just be put in there? I think, especially when translating to an English word, maybe it should not be translated to actions, but left as karma. And then you look up what the definition of karma is. Karma being that of thoughts and actions. That way, it doesn't. Some people who read this and think of karma as purely actions alone and not thoughts.
कुरु कर्मैव तस्मात् त्वं पूर्वैर्पूर्वतरं कृतम्.
The practice of karma yoga radically changes the way you behave. Usually, behavior is driven by raga and dvesha, the inner compulsions to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But for a skillful karma yogi, these compulsions completely stop, as Sri Krishna explains.
Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tadde karma pravakshyami yajñātvā mokshyase shubhāt. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanah akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Karmanya karmaya pasyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma krit yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagnidhagda karmanam tamahu panditam budhaha त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्तसर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम् यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टो द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समसिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते गतसङ्गस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञानावस्थितचेतसः यज्ञाय चरतः कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते.
Now, Sri Krishna introduces another aspect of karma yoga. He compares performing actions to performing a yajna, a ritual in which offerings are sacrificed into a sacred fire. All your daily actions can be transformed into spiritual practice when they're done with the attitude of sacrifice.
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्महविर् ब्रह्माग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्मकर्मसमाधिना दैवमेवापरे यज्ञं योगिनः पर्युपासते ब्रह्माग्नौ अपरे यज्ञं यज्ञेनैवोपजुह्वति श्रोत्रादीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्य इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति सर्वानीन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयम्य योगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते द्रव्ययज्ञास्तपो यज्ञा योगयज्ञास्तथा परे स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च यतयः संशितावृताः अपाने जुह्वति प्राणं प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्मसनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्त्ययज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तम एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप.
But better than sacrificing oblations is the sacrifice of knowledge. He said a lot of things about sacrificing here. I don't know if I quite understand it, but to summarize it, let me know if I'm wrong. It's, in a sense, if you do things sacrificially, not like in a negative way. I mean, some people, when some people in the West, at the very least, when they think of sacrifice, they think of like ritual sacrifice and stuff, but not like that. Sacrifice in terms of perhaps actions, food, eating, and all that. Thinking that everything is a sacrifice, meaning it's not to be taken lightly, not to be taken. How do I say? Not to be taken as though it was meaningless. You do it meaninglessly. If you understand everything as a sacrifice, then you appreciate things more. And you don't see things as meaningless. That's about the best way I can translate it. I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to understand that part or not. I would have to watch that again, because it's I don't know if it's translated word for word, so it would be a little bit confusing in how word structures were worded back in the day, or perhaps how when Sanskrit translate to English, how, you know, like verbs and nouns are kind of switched around. Sometimes you say this is a black pen, but in like Spanish, you'll say, if you translate it word for word, it says this pen black or something like that. You know, you don't say this is a black pen. You say this is black. This is pen black. You say the noun and the verb versus the verb and the noun or something like that. You know, the language just kind of switches up how verbs and nouns are. So I don't know if this is a one-to-one translation, or perhaps it's just because it's such a poetic way, and words may have slightly different meanings back in the day, or perhaps just, again, how words are used. It's a bit difficult to understand it like straight through one time.
Sarvam karmakilam partha jnane parisamapyate.
In the prior verse, Sri Krishna says that sacrifice in the form of spiritual knowledge is better than other sacrifices. Better because the others are only preparatory steps leading to the ultimate goal, spiritual knowledge, enlightenment.
Okay, he just explained that part. My bad. I didn't think he would go back.
In the final part of this chapter, Sri Krishna explains how you can get that knowledge.
Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinah yajñātvāna punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhūtānyasheshena draksyasyatman yatho mayi api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnanaplavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi yataidhamsi samiddhognir bhasmasat kuruterjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhah कालेनात्मनि विन्दति श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानं तत्परः संयतेन्द्रियः ज्ञानं लब्ध्वा परां शान्तिम् अचिरेणाधिगच्छति अज्ञश्च श्रद्दधानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परो न सुखं संशयात्मनः.
Real quick question here. I noticed he used the word faith in here. What is it? Faithless, those without faith, those who are ignorant, faithless, and doubtful will forever, in a sense, forever suffer. But what does it mean by faith in this context? I'm not sure about that one. Because, again, Sadhguru talks about how India is a godless country. And again, faith in America is usually based in religion. So I don't know how faith is used in this context. I'm not sure I've heard any of the Swamis or Gurus talk about faith. Perhaps maybe in the context of religion. But is there a different meaning in this one?
योगसंयस्तकर्माणं ज्ञानसञ्चिन्नसंशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय तस्मादज्ञानसम्भूतं हृस्तं ज्ञानासीनात्मनः चित्वैनं संशयं योगम् आतिष्ठोतिष्ठ भारत.
ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानकर्मसन्न्यासयोगो नाम चतुर्थोऽध्यायः.
Okay, so it's about to go to the English version. Sannyasa Yoga. I know jnana, knowledge, what you are not. Karma Yoga, actions and thoughts. Sannyasa, heard that before, I just don't remember. It's not used too often. Sannyasa Yoga. Devotion? It's definitely not Raja meditation, I don't believe. I can see devotion being part of the story because jnana, think that which you are not. You know, you're not the body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your desires. Karma, perform your duties, perform your actions, not desire, but devotion. Devote yourself to your actions, to your duties, in a sense. Again, you know, karma and bhakti yoga are very intertwined. So devotion to your actions and your thoughts to the betterment or love. But is sannyasa essentially bhakti yoga? I've heard it before, but I just don't know why I can't remember it. It hasn't been said very much. So anyways, I'm gonna go watch the English version by myself. And for the other previous version, I highly suggest going to Swami Tadatmananda's page and watching it. And also watching the rest of his stuff, especially if you want to learn the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how close it is to the truth. I wouldn't doubt that Swami Tadatmananda tries his very best to go to the original source. He himself said that he went to India to learn from the original sources, from lineage sages, those who have lineages tied to great sages in the past. And I know he tries to do everything in good faith. So I do believe in him. He's very good at explaining things too, I will say that. But yes, and also without me interrupting these things, but I'm going to interrupt them forcefully because if you want to watch it uninterrupted, you have to go to his page. Plus, anyway, you should be watching me for my reactions of this and thoughts, not your first time watching this stuff. So anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.